You've had that dream, right? The one where you're just soaring, weightless, over everything. Or maybe the other one, where the ground just vanishes and you're falling into nothing. These dreams are some of the most powerful experiences we can have, and they're incredibly common. They feel so personal, but they also connect us, like we're all speaking this secret subconscious language. Well, today, we're going to try and decode that language.
I mean, you can almost feel that just reading it, can't you? The soaring, it's just pure joy, total freedom. But the plummeting? That's that gut punch of panic, a complete and total loss of control. So on the surface, they feel like they're polar opposites. You've got rising versus crashing, ultimate power versus ultimate vulnerability.
So this is really the big question we're digging into. What if flying and falling aren't opposites at all? Seriously, what if they're two sides of the same coin? Maybe they're telling a single, unified story about what's going on inside our heads, about our relationship with control and freedom and fear. Let's dive in.
Okay, before we get into all the psychology and the symbolism, we have to start with the body. Because these really intense feelings, flight, free fall, they aren't just random ideas our brain cooks up. No, they're deeply connected to real physical things that are happening while we're asleep. So let's look at the biology behind the sensation.
So this slide really gets to the heart of the physical side of things. Over on the left, you see flying is tied to the state of deep sleep paralysis. The key term there is REM atonia. And on the right, for falling, it's connected to that jolt you sometimes feel right as you're dozing off. That's called a hypnic jerk. They sound kind of technical, I know, but they are absolutely essential to understanding why these dreams feel so incredibly real. So let's break them down.
So picture this. You're in your deepest dream sleep, REM sleep. Your brain is just on fire. It's creating these vivid, incredible dream worlds. It's almost as active as it is when you're awake. But at the exact same time, your brain sends a signal that basically paralyzes your entire body. It's a safety feature called REM atonia, and it's what stops you from, literally running away from a dream monster in your bedroom. So your mind has to figure out this bizarre situation. Your brain is flying through cities, but your body can't move an inch. So what's its best guess? Weightlessness. The feeling of being an unbound mind. The sensation of flight.
The falling dream is a totally different story. This usually happens right as you're drifting off, in that really delicate space between being awake and being asleep. Your breathing slows down, your heart rate drops, your muscles start to relax, but sometimes your brain just gets its wires crossed. It mistakes this sudden muscle relaxation for you actually falling. So, as a reflex, it tries to save you by triggering this huge involuntary muscle spasm. That's the hypnic jerk. And that's the jolt that wakes you up, heart pounding, convinced for a split second that you were just tumbling into an abyss.
And if you've ever felt this, you are definitely not alone. Up to 70% of people experience these hypnic jerks. It's an incredibly common, totally normal part of falling asleep. It's almost like this ancient primal reflex from a brain that hasn't quite caught on to the fact that we're not sleeping in trees anymore. It's a funny little evolutionary glitch in our Sleep Start program.
Okay, so we've got the physical how. The body gives us the raw sensation of being weightless or suddenly dropping. But that's only half the picture. Why does our mind take those physical signals and wrap them in these powerful symbols of flying and falling? Why not just a dream about floating or tripping? This is where we get into the psychology of it all. Flying dreams, it seems, almost universally tap into our deepest desires for freedom, for empowerment. They often mean we've overcome some obstacle, or we've gained a new, higher perspective on a problem, or we're just feeling this surge of confidence. Imagine you've been buried under a mountain of work, a dream where you just effortlessly soar above the city. That's not random. That's a powerful symbolic release from all that weight. It's your mind's way of showing you rising above the stress.
Now, falling dreams, on the other hand, they tend to tap into our deepest anxieties. They often symbolize a loss of control in some area of our life, maybe a shaky relationship, an unstable job. It's that feeling of having no ground beneath your feet. So if you're really worried about a big presentation at work, your mind might translate that fear of failure into the literal physical experience of falling. It's a symbol of the crash you're so terrified of in your waking life. And you can see how our thinking on this has changed over time. The early psychoanalysts like Freud, they saw it all through the lens of repressed desires or anxieties. His contemporary, Carl Jung, had a different take. He saw these dreams as a kind of warning. Think of the myth of Icarus flying too close to the sun. For Jung, both flying really high and falling really hard could be your psyche's way of saying, hey, you're getting carried away. You need to stay grounded. Today, modern psychology is a bit more flexible. We don't really see these dreams as having one fixed meaning, but more as our mind's personal toolkit for working through our feelings about control, stability, and freedom.
Okay, so we have the science and we have the psychology.
We know how these dreams feel, and we have some pretty good theories about what they mean. So now, let's connect the dots. How can these two feelings that seem like total opposites actually be part of the very same story?
And this is the key insight right here. They aren't just opposites, they're on a spectrum. A falling dream might represent the surrender, the letting go that you need before you can find a new way to rise up. And a dream of flight might be born from the moment you finally let go of a fear that was keeping you stuck on the ground. They're both about our relationship with gravity, not just physical gravity, but the metaphorical gravity in our lives.
There's this theory called emotional selection that gives us a great way to think about this. So imagine your dreaming brain isn't just a random movie projector. Think of it more like a super sophisticated flight simulator for your emotions. It picks these really powerful universal symbols like flying and falling to run simulations. It's testing out different scenarios, helping you process your day, regulate your nervous system, and basically build up your emotional resilience. It's not random, it's regulation.
And check this out. This completely flips a common idea on its head. A lot of us assume that the sheer weirdness of flying is what makes us realize, oh, I must be dreaming. But this research suggests it's usually the other way around. Dreamers first become aware that they're in a dream, and then they choose to fly. Now this is huge. It means flying isn't just something that happens to us. It can be an act of will, a deliberate choice we make inside the dream to experience freedom and control.
So the crucial thing here is to shift our focus. Instead of just asking, am I going up or down, we should be asking, what is my mind trying to work through right now? The direction, up or down, is actually less important than the reason for the motion. The dream is a message about your inner world, a conversation that you're having with yourself.
So, this all brings us to the most important question, right? How can we actually use this information? How do we turn these nightly flights and falls into a real tool for self-understanding? The key is to stop just shrugging them off as just a weird dream and start listening to them like they're valuable intel from our subconscious.
So how do you do this? The next time you wake up from one of these dreams, before you even grab your phone, just try journaling. Let's walk through these prompts. First, what happened right before you started to fly or fall? The trigger is so often the biggest clue. Were you arguing with someone, running from something? That context is everything. Second, what was the outcome? Did you fall but then land gently? That could suggest you feel like you have a safety net. Did you fly but you were scared of how high you were? Maybe you're feeling anxious about a new success. Third, who was with you? The people in our dreams often represent parts of ourselves or our relationships. Were they helping you or were they watching you fall? And finally, ask the big one. If this entire dream were a message in a bottle from my subconscious, what is it trying to tell me about my life right now?
And that really brings us to the ultimate takeaway. These dreams aren't just abstract symbols. They're deeply personal invitations. A recurring falling dream might be your mind's way of screaming at you to let go of a toxic situation or an impossible standard you set for yourself. And a flying dream could be that powerful nudge you need to reach for an opportunity you've been putting off, to really embrace your own potential. So the next time the ground disappears or the sky opens up in your sleep, just remember, your mind isn't just taking you for a ride, it's asking you a question, and it's waiting for you to answer.